This is another episode of the Logical Gamers podcast. I am here with my fellow gamers.
Blanca Kong.
Esoteric.
Hello.
And for this episode, we are going to be talking about the highly controversial goings on at the Activision Blizzard Corporation. A lot of things have been revealed in a recent lawsuit brought about by the state of California. So a lot of things came out the closet. I think a lot of high ups in Blizzard didn't want to come out. And they are currently not doing well in terms of the public eye and in terms of their stocks and their revenue. So, pretty much just to get at the heart of it, California brought up a lawsuit against Activision Blizzard stating various sexual harassment claims. Some of the stuff they went on about is pretty nuts. They have unregulated touching, sexual harassment. I mean, we've got women and men, some men being groped inappropriately, sexual comments being directed at them. You know, some reports of people coming in wasted, hungover during working hours, weird group exercises like they have one called the cube crawl, where they literally have employees, mostly female, get on their hands and knees and walk through desks, the spaces between the desks, and they're slapped on the ass and they're like paraded around. Some pretty wild stuff. Even led to supposedly a female employee at the company taking her own life because she went on a work trip with a supervisor that she was having relations with, and that supervisor supposedly, allegedly, leaked nude photos of her around the office, and she just couldn't take it anymore and took her own life, supposedly, allegedly. So this is some pretty crazy stuff coming from a company that's already public wise on the rocks with their recent game releases and their comments, and people are leaving World of Warcraft in droves for games like Final Fantasy 14. So not doing good for Blizzard. And recently the CEO of Blizzard Entertainment, a Mr. J. Allen Brack, quit Blizzard. He retired. They're not going to say he was fired, but he left the corporation. And I don't know about you guys, but to me, that speaks volumes, even if, nothing is said. Him leaving in that manner speaks volumes. So that's the general gist of it. There's a lot more. It's a ever-changing situation. But just want to hear your guys' thoughts on it. Like, how do you feel? This seems to be being reported on more in different companies. Ubisoft has also have their own issues with sexual harassment law allegations. So I'm just curious what you guys think about it, and think about this whole gamer bro culture that they say is rampant in the industry.
Okay, so
How?
yeah, there's more too. That's the crazy
Right.
part.
That was like
Because
tip of the iceberg.
We're a little late to the story. The story's been going around for maybe 2 weeks now, and there are more things kind of coming out. So we're a little late to the party as far as discussing it, but
Yeah.
here we are discussing it. I think it's a really unfortunate that it got to the point where someone felt like they had to take their own life. That's really that's rough, man. That really sucks. And initially, when I heard about when this first broke, I was a little like, are people are these employees like kind of blowing it out of proportion, because that's happened, right? Like there have been false allegations and there have been fabricated stories, and so I questioned how serious it was, but digging deeper, I realized no, this is really happening. Um, and it sucks because I can I I can believe it because being so most of us went to art school for animation and design, and those that did go to art school, you guys maybe you do, maybe you know, maybe you don't, I don't know, but there was definitely like a frat boy culture to some degree within the program, and so there weren't many female students in that program, but because of that, sometimes they were treated a little like unfairly, or they were given unwanted attention because of just like the discrepancy of male to female ratio in the classroom. I've also seen it happen at GameStop. I worked there for a long time. There's a lot more guys working than girls, and so when some of these guys see even a semi-attractive girl, it doesn't even have to be like a super attractive promiscuous girl, it just has to be a biological woman, and some of these guys just can't control themselves. They just can't be normal or be respectful. They have to act crazy and do things and say things that are inappropriate and would get them punched in the face in any other situation. But because, what is she gonna do? She's one girl and there's five of us. They kind of take advantage of that. So it sucks, but I know it's real because I've seen it in the workplace. I've seen it in school. So I can only imagine that behavior and that culture kind of moving up from universities and schools and um, workplaces, moving into like the gaming industry, especially with it being so like such a tight knit group, right? Because if you're working on a game together, you're working together for years, closely, every day, 12 hours a day. Because making games isn't easy. It takes a lot of time and effort. So you're around these people a lot. So I can only imagine what that was like for some of these people. Sorry, I kind of rambled there,
Mhm.
but you guys can share your piece.
I am just really shocked on the amount of unprofessionalism that has been allowed, or the level of it that it has escalated to
Yeah.
before something was actually done about it, whether it was sexual harassment on a man or sexual harassment on a female. Like, do they not have HR divisions? Do they not have
They do. And apparently they
like,
were in on it, or they just
Right.
didn't care.
Yeah.
so
HR
it's
was more concerned with, keeping the image of the company, positive than actually addressing any employee grievances.
that's how you keep the positive image of the company, though. You have to address, you have to be there for the employees. If someone comes and reports that, oh, I've been touched or the wrong way, or something has been said to me the wrong way, then immediate action should have been taken. But to be playing games like, people bending over and walking through desk, or weird exercises, first and foremost, it's ideal that you do not sleep with coworkers to begin
Mhm.
with.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's just, to me, it's a lot of unprofessionalism that was allowed. This doesn't sound like a corporate company that's about making money. This sounds like a corporate company that's just like, that just is just existing, and people can just do what they want. Um, that's I would have never thought anything like that on that scale. Anyways, and that's only assuming if the
Right.
scale is as large as the media or the outlets are taking it for. Um, but
Yeah.
that's depressing. If someone, like, to get to the point where you commit suicide, that's really depressing.
Yeah.
That's extremely depressing, and And I agree with, Gunner's point where resigning out of the company just as all this news breaks out does speak volumes. It's just like it's an eye opener where you start to wonder. It's like, okay, well, are you trying to jump ship before you sink too, or or you just feel like this potato was a little too hot to be carrying, so you decide to drop it. It's I don't have much to say on it, but it's just depressing on all ends. And
Yeah, I completely agree with all three of you guys' point. You know, I can only imagine, just having a woman who you like love, your daughter, your mom, your sister, working under these type of environments. You know what I'm saying? And it's just really mind boggling how if these things, if these allegations are like of this magnitude, it's just really amazing how no one stepped in. Like the company didn't take matters into their own hands, take it seriously, and understand that this is a workplace. You're supposed to maintain professionalism. We're here to create games and um, entertain our customers, our consumers. By giving them content, not during the workplace. You're slapping women on their behinds. You're basically like treating them as less than. For lack of for it is what it is. You're treating them less than, and that's not something that any woman should endure at all. Um, I just my heart goes out to the women who basically took her own life because of these situations, because they're very real. I really don't know what else to say about it. It's just I just hope everybody gets what's coming to them. You know, it's sad.
It's frustrating because for me, I listen. You guys know I'm very sarcastic. I have a dark sense of humor. I like to joke around, but I also know that there's a time and place for everything. So, especially when it comes to work, I take whatever job I have seriously, and I have an expectation of having or receiving universal respect, the same respect I give to everybody else. I expect that in return as a courtesy, right? Um, and to know that that doesn't exist. I mean, I'm not naive. I understand that there are toxic workplaces, and you know, they're just shitty people out there. And then there are even shittier people in higher positions of power. Um, so it is what it is, but it shouldn't be that way, and it should be addressed, and it should be regulated. There needs to be something needs to happen, because it's not right. People are killing themselves when people are taking their own lives from social embarrassment because some jackass couldn't like maintain the social contract between him and somebody he was with to himself. He had to show it off. Like, come on,
Right.
man. Like that's some that's some low tier shit right there, if you ask me.
mhm.
Agreed. Agreed.
So I think it falls on leadership. Gunnar already mentioned that the CEO left before, he resigned, and he left with his golden parachute,
Yep.
and he has his pension. So, he's leaving unscathed. Um, that's fucked up, man. That's really fucked up. Um, the HR department, from what I read, wasn't really, again, taking it seriously. They were more concerned with the public image and kind of covering things up. That has to change. There needs to be a third party HR company that needs to do their own independent investigations to make sure things are legit. Because if I mean, if you have your own internal HR department, you can manipulate that, right? You can tell
Yeah.
them what to look for, what not to look for, what to hide, what to expose, whatever. It becomes a tool of your business and not for the right reasons. So that's something that needs to happen. There needs to be some sort of company, outside third party company, that regulates like work environments for these people working on these games, and not just the gaming industry. That might be something that might have to happen across multiple industries, because this is not exclusive to Blizzard Activision
Yeah.
or the gaming industry as a whole.
Yeah, it's really sad. I feel like the two most safest places you should be able to come to is your home and a work environment. You shouldn't have to deal with any of that level of unprofessionalism, or actually any unprofessionalism at all. Saying, um, I don't know what they were thinking. Of course, we don't conduct ourselves in that manner. We know that we know how to we know how to handle ourselves in an appropriate way. We respect women. We appreciate them. And it's really terrible.
It's not just. I mean, obviously, this is about the women who suffered
Oh,
through this, and because
yeah.
they represent a minority
Mm-hmm.
in the industry, unfortunately, this is what spawned from it. It's just people in general. People need to learn how to respect each other. And anybody who's worked with me, I think I could say this. I don't know. I think anybody who's worked with me, they can tell you that I've always been as respectful as possible, especially to women, to female coworkers, because men and women are different, right? The way we talk to each other, men to men, it's not the same that the same way we interact with women, and the same way women interact with each other isn't the same way they interact with us. And so you need to understand that difference. You need to set boundaries, and you need to respect those boundaries. And I think that's clearly that didn't happen here. And I've heard the argument of like, oh well, maybe some of these girls were asking for it. Maybe they were being provocative. Maybe, I don't know. And if that's the case, then there's some accountability to be had there for them. But the leadership of the company, like supervisors, CEOs, whoever, they need to take action. They need to do something about it. They need to address it. ASAP needs to happen right away, right? Whether girls are being provocative or not, it's irrelevant, right? The situation happened and somebody took their life. That's not that's not that's nothing to like scoff at. So what are some things that you guys think should happen?
I mean, like you said, like a full investigation should be brought, which is happening. And if any criminal charges need to be brought about by these people against these people, the people accused, then yeah, you prosecute them to the fullest extent of the law. You investigate every claim thoroughly. Some you check to see which are valid. I'm not trying to discredit anybody, but things do happen. People say things, and it's proven later on that that's not exactly what happened. But this is looking pretty serious, and it's looking like this is just more than a couple disgruntled employees who got a bad deal and then are doing something vindictive. This is looking like these are some serious charges and serious allegations that are being brought against some pretty high up people in the company. So, like, investigate thoroughly, and if dude's got to get prosecuted, dude's got to get prosecuted. I mean, unfortunately, the CEO got out. Who knows what he knows? Who knows what can be done about that? But this is coming. I'm not saying this has direct correlations, but this might have something to do with how Blizzard's been performing as a whole recently. The company, what they produced. They're, and you can kind of see that kind of like mentality in some of the Blizzard people when they would have conventions and stuff. Everybody remembers Diablo Ultimate and the infamous don't you guys have phones? Like that's that's kind of like a scumbaggy thing to say to the people that kind of support your franchise and love your franchise. So if they're acting like that in regards to people asking a legitimate question of, is this the only Diablo we're getting, or are you working on a mainline Diablo? Who knows what's going on in that building behind closed doors that general public doesn't have access to? So I'm not saying that's the reason why a lot of Blizzard franchises are suffering as they are, but could
It's a
be.
fair point. I mean, it's a reasonable idea to have, right? Because I mean, look at Overwatch, right? Like that game has such potential, and they botched it. I feel like they botched it at every turn. And I don't know much about WoW. I played WoW once for like 4 hours, and it wasn't for me, so I never touched it ever again. So I can't say much about that game, but I've heard complaints about that game from that community. People weren't too happy with, the last controversial thing I heard about was they did like a relaunch or something for either a WoW expansion or like the original WoW or
Oh,
something, and it was
WoW
really bad.
Classic.
Yeah, so people were pissed about that. I think that was 2 years ago now, something like that.
Maybe, yeah. I think 2019.
Yeah, people were fucking pissed. So I mean, is it unreasonable to think that maybe uh toxic work environments had something to do with like bad products being put out? Yeah, I would venture to think so,
Yeah, I'd say it's not unrealistic to kind of draw some correlations between the two. It's not the sole reason, but
No,
know.
I don't think so, but
yeah,
certainly a contributing factor, right? So,
I'd say so.
Esoteric, you got anything else to throw in there?
Well, first I would say that yes, I would agree with you guys' points pertaining to that being a contributing factor. Also, kind of to piggyback off of Gunner's point pertaining to like the courses of action that they should take. I feel like a company really hears you when you hit their pockets. I feel like
Mhm.
with these allegations that are sprouting about, and if they are deemed to be true via the investigation and whatever we have, those victims need to sue.
Oh yeah.
They need to sue the company. Because I'm pretty sure if in order for the HR department allegedly to be in on it, that means that someone has made a case towards it. Someone has made a complaint. So if they turn that person around, that means that they're not doing their job to keep the work environment, secured for all employees. Once they turn their back on that person, it's technically a hostile work environment because they went through the appropriate channels, they spoke to the appropriate people, and no one has done anything about it. With the supervisor or the manager, the business trip that the woman went to, like that is an abuse of power. You know what I'm saying? You go out with this person, this manager who you should be feel secured because that's your boss. Come to find out, nude pictures are leaked of you, and now you commit suicide. Like there needs to be some ramifications for this level of conduct throughout the multi levels of the business. The people who are doing it need to get fired, and the people who didn't handle it, there needs to be some type of ramifications. The company needs to be like sorted through from the inside out. Money needs to be lost.
Well, they're losing money. That's happening.
Oh yeah.
Well, no, I know that they're losing money from like the consumers and stuff, but I mean also from.
But the people directly responsible need to be affected. I agree 100%.
Exactly.
So it goes back to leadership. I think. So I'll say this: workplace relationships are probably the worst idea you can have.
Yep.
Right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. There are some relationships that start at the workplace and blossom into beautiful relationships that test time, which is great, but that's one in a million, right? That doesn't happen very often.
Dime a dozen.
So first of all, like anybody who's working anywhere, especially in like such an intimate workplace like the gaming industry, you need to control yourself. That's for men and women alike. You need to control yourself, and you need to really think about what are the possibilities that can stem from engaging in a relationship with somebody that you work with, that you see every day. That's just, it's not good. Second, it needs to be regulated. People who are hooking up cannot work together. Like in any workplace where I had power, where I was like a manager, I made sure that shit was stomped out. So if I found out that two people were hooking up, one of them got transferred out, right? And they certainly didn't work on the same days. You know, so it's up to leadership to actually address that and make sure that the work environment stays as professional and as productive as possible, right? So something they could do, and I know this might be unpopular, is implementing uniforms or a very strict dress code when you come into work, because that's another thing too. Like if people dress a certain way, that might, you know, entice or tempt people to take
Negative
action.
behavior.
And as well negative behavior. Like these things need to be nipped in the bud quick. So that's my opinion. I think either a dress code, a uniform, whatever. There needs to be a third party or outside, and you know, HR department to regulate work environments for these places to make sure that this stuff doesn't happen. Or if it does, it's in a controlled environment and it doesn't blow up like this again. You know.
Yeah, I agree. Well, in regards to the uniforms, yeah, and the dress code definitely should be implemented. Hopefully it doesn't have to go as far as a uniform, but if they can have a dress code where people dress appropriately, then that's definitely good. Um, but yeah, into some actions that they can also take, they can do. I don't know if they do this, but they can do auditing. You know, have some type of like random auditing just to check someone just
Yeah,
come in.
that's what I meant with the whole outsourced HR department that isn't
Okay.
linked to that company. It's like, hey, we're randomly coming in to interview the employees. You know, kind of
Okay.
like how the ESRB exists to
Yes.
rate games or whatever, something like that, to make sure that, you know, people aren't being overworked, people aren't being discriminated against, people aren't being sexually abused or verbally abused or emotionally abused or physically abused, whatever, to make sure that the work environment is safe and is healthy, right? And if it's not, then the company's going to get hit with a fucking fine, right? And like you said before, if you hit a company where it matters the most, which is the wallet, they're going to take action. And if they start eating fines because, you know, level designer Johnny can't keep his fucking hands to himself, then level designer Johnny's probably not going to have a job soon, right? And then the other fucking people in that team are going to know, oh shit, we should probably chill the fuck out and just do our jobs, right?
Yeah.
So that's how I would do it personally, but you know, I'm no expert, so.
No, that makes sense. I think those are some plausible actions to take. I didn't know that you were referring to like auditing, but that would fall
Yeah,
under
I
HR.
phrased it. I guess I didn't articulate it properly,
No,
so my bad
those are
for that.
no. I guess those are one of the job descriptions of an HR, you know, rep or you know, I don't know the full description of what they do, but I would assume that that will fall under the umbrella of things to do.
Hmm. So Wolf, I noticed you have to step out. Do you have any other like things you want to mention about this topic?
Nah, I really don't have much to say about this topic. It's a crazy situation to even think a company would allow that much nonsense to go on.
Mm-hmm.
But let's just you know, like I said to the gamers that are listening, um, you know, at your place of employment, or you know, your wherever you are, where just keep your hands to yourself. Speak to others with a certain level of integrity, and be mindful for what you say and do. You know, be mindful on your compliments, be mindful on your observations, and just respect other people. It's the only thing I can say. That's my biggest advice to anyone at this point, because situations like that can get really out of hand and be detrimental to your reputation your source of income, your future. Um, it's just like people, like I always say, it's just people have to be held accountable for their actions and their choices. Um, and if you constantly uphold a certain level of accountability for who you are and what you're about, your chances of making these types of mistakes, I feel, will lower greatly. So this whole situation should not even have gone as far as it went. Like, you're coming into work intoxicated. You should have been let go that day. Um, like that should be a no tolerance kind of rule. Um, and whether people are playing, it is a video game company, and my animation professor taught me that sometimes it's good to act out what you want your character to do. Now, there's a difference between acting out what you want the characters to do or give an example of what kind of characters you want and how you want them to behave, and then at the same time taking advantage of that demonstration to then alter it into something that's uncomfortable for someone. Like, I can imagine in a video game studio they would, or not studio, but in a video game company they would be doing all sorts of physical demonstrations, acting out things. And because it's not being regulated on a professional level, clearly it's not for this article to have to come out.
Yeah.
It was just, I can't even say it's blown out of proportion, because that would be the incorrect term. It's just bad management. So whatever Blizzard gets is what Blizzard gets, because in the end of the day, you're, as a company, when you're putting certain things together, you are supposed to look for worst possible scenario to best possible scenario. And you're supposed to be able to cover each scenario or put in place policies and procedures so that certain scenarios do not occur. So whatever Blizzard gets, however the company, whatever backlash the company faces, whatever struggles the company go through moving forward, that's all on them, because they didn't do the right thing to begin with and protect their employees. And protecting your employees from other employees as well, not just from,
And protecting them from themselves.
right, and protecting them from themselves. So
Mhm.
it just doesn't. It don't make sense. And also, scholars, don't date your coworker. Don't. Like, there's too many people out in the real world
You can help
where,
it.
right, if you can help it. But there's too many people out there where you can find someone. Do not find anybody at your job. Don't do that. Don't get yourself in that kind of predicament. It's not good. But that's just my personal opinion on it.
No,
I'm done.
to your point, Wolf, in regards to dating, I think people do it due to proximity. A lot of relationships happen via people who are like close together, whether they're in schools or the workplace. So I
I
think
get
that's,
that.
yeah, but no, I'm not like relinquishing your point. Like, the workplace is a little tricky. It's best, prevent is better than cure, basically. It's better to not do something than to do something and then have to like fix whatever it is that you did. You know, so I definitely get your point.
So some other points from the article, and the article we're gonna reference is an older article. So there are a lot of things that aren't mentioned or didn't break news. I'm gonna try and mention some of the stuff, and I know Gunnar has some points to bring up, but some of the other things that were going on were promotions and opportunities being withheld from female employees due to fear of pregnancy or motherly obligations. That's not cool. I mean, I kind of get it, but if the person's qualified for the job, they should have a fair shot, period, no matter what they are or who they are. And then the whole Bill Cosby suite at BlizzCon that came out, where you know they took pictures like with this Bill Cosby portrait or whatever, and You know, if you haven't heard about Bill
Hmm.
Cosby and his reputation, then
You've been living under a rock.
you've been living under a rock, right? And so, and this apparently took place during like 2013 or 2014, one of those years. So it was a while ago, but it wasn't that long ago. But the fact that that exists, goes to show you how long some of these like ideas and how long this culture has existed within that company. So you guys have any thoughts on that stuff?
I
Oh my gosh.
mean,
Yeah, I told you it was gonna get worse, Wolf. I told you.
Mm.
just insane abuse of power, really. You know, just because these higher ups have a sense of power over female, male co-workers that aren't as high up in the company. They think just because I'm the head honcho at Blizzard, everybody knows the name. We make World of Warcraft,
Mhm.
Diablo, that they can just like come up to my hotel room and feel like they're obligated to something. That's not how that works. That's how it shouldn't work. But apparently these guys, they have a system and they've been abusing their workers for a while, and now it's all coming out. That, and I heard that they would regulate work to female employees while they would go play video games.
Yes, I did hear about that as well.
And I get like you're a video game company and that's the name of the game, but to like there is hard work that goes into that, and to just pawn that off to your female coworker while you go and play a round of COD or Overwatch. It's like, come on, you're all supposed to put in work. Don't just pawn it off to someone just because, whatever
You
woman,
can.
yeah, do this job for me real quick. Like equally as shitty.
Yeah, I agree. And I think
Wow.
we've all experienced that in one workplace or another. I certainly have, where
Mhm.
Oh yeah.
I would have a manager or something, and they would just throw all this work on me, and they're in the back on their phones just dicking around.
Yeah.
And I'm dealing with a full store of people or a whole restaurant of people, and I'm like, what the hell, man? So that's bad, man. That's rough.
I can only imagine just you know coming into a gaming company. Like, let's say some of these women were game developers. It takes years of skill, practice, understanding of that craft. Like, you don't you don't go into like you don't go into like a field such as Blizzard or like any other gaming company within those departments to just dick around. You're there because you're passionate about the gaming industry and producing games, you know. And even if it wasn't the gaming industry, like nobody should be subjected to that kind of work environment.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, it's one thing to be like pawned off work because you're an exceptional employee and you do the work, but it's another to just be pawned off work because you know, for
You
lack
want to
of
play hooky or whatever.
exactly.
So I'll say this too. Being someone who's went to school for animation and game design. Obviously I'm not a game developer or anything, so that degree didn't see as much mileage as it should have, but that's okay. Um, there's a certain level of like, how do I phrase it? There's a certain level of like just kookiness and just levity within animators and artists, and like people like to joke around, right? Especially people within that nerd culture space, game development, animation, character design, 2D drawing, whatever. People like to fool around, like they like to have fun. I can remember back in the day, Esoteric, I think you were there for that, where we bought a bunch of Nerf guns and we had Nerf wars in like the animation studio,
Yes,
right?
still got the
At
video.
the end of the semester. And we weren't, the idea wasn't to hurt anybody or to create a hostile work or learning environment. It was just to, we had a stressful semester, and it was nearing the end, and we just bought Nerf guns and we just were being little kids. So
Yeah.
I understand that, you know, that culture and that mentality kind of carries over into the industry, into like these major studios and stuff. I can see that, and I'm okay with people having fun at work. But clearly, this probably started off as one thing, and then it kind of manifested and evolved into something else entirely, of people abusing their power and people just violating other people because they can, because they have name recognition, because they're valuable to the company, so they're given favoritism or whatever. That shit is not cool, man. That's why we need that third party company to kind of regulate and investigate these companies to make sure things are tip top, because this is going to keep happening, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And the fact that although you did mention that some men were like assaulted as well, um, this is usually more so out in the open with women. So they have a tendency to be reluctant to like speak to us or whatnot. Like sometimes some men have a sense of or feel a sense of entitlement that they can talk to a woman or be around a woman or do whatever they want, and that's not really the case. And it's sad because I I'm just gonna make this clear. I'm happy that I'm a man because I don't ever want to feel that type of way as a woman. Like I cannot fathom walking down the street and guys are just like, catcalling me or, just grabbing me up, and you have to have a pleasant conversation with them because you don't know what their mentality is. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of, I kind of went like above the scope of what's happening at Blizzard, but my point is to say that women deal with this in the workplace, outside of the workplace, pretty much almost anywhere, and it just needs to stop.
Yeah.
I disagree with that.
Which part?
I disagree with the part of the quote unquote vulnerability that females have to deal with that men don't. I feel like females deal with vulnerability. There are other things that they deal with vulnerability wise. When it comes down to sexual harassment, to me, it's both deal it the wrong way. I can give you points in where I've seen male coworkers at other jobs get touched a certain way or get or have to deal with flirting from females because of maybe the way he looks or his muscles or his height. And even for him, it could be unwanted, but it's okay because she's female.
No.
When it comes down to sexual harassment, it's wrong on both spectrums.
Absolutely.
There is no, for me, I don't care if 80% of women versus 20% men feel sexual harassment. No, it's sexual harassment is being done. So if it's every 2 guys to 3 females that is getting sexually harassed at a job, it's wrong.
No. I agree 100%. It's across the board, but I guess what I was trying to convey is the fact that as like the men being assaulted as opposed to women being assaulted, it's kind of like 2 different beasts. Like yes, it is assaulting as a whole, but there's less likely of a man getting attacked as opposed to there is like a woman getting attacked for not addressing the man the way that they want to be addressed. If you get what I'm like saying.
I get it, but I'm not going to rebuttal it on this channel because it just doesn't fit the gaming spectrum. So I'll agree with the simple fact of it is easier to see a female is being harassed sexually or have to deal with more sexual harassment than men. But in my personal opinion, it's just the mentalities between the 2 genders and how society breaks that down. It's more than just one gender is a bigger victim than the other gender.
It is. I agree with what you're
Yeah.
saying. But I also agree with some points that Esoteric mentioned. I mean, if we're just looking at ratios, just math, right? Women do face it more often than men. That doesn't
That-
discredit the
Mm.
men's experiences. I'm not saying that.
I think it's because it is reported more.
Maybe,
It definitely
but
could
Yeah.
be a
maybe,
factor.
but I think it just happens more often in general. So I'll speak from my experience. I don't have a
Hard
chart in front of
statistic.
me or anything
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
But I can say working at GameStop for 10 years or nearly 10 years, I've had a lot of female coworkers, right? I have never had any issues with them one-on-one, but I've seen, I mean, dozens, at least dozens of different situations where every day they have to deal with some form of harassment, whether it's from a coworker, a boss, or a customer. It happens often, right? And have I been a victim to being given unwanted attention or whatever? Sure, but it pales in comparison to what I've seen. So, that's my experience. I can't speak for anybody else, but
Well, I wasn't so much trying. I guess I was miscommunicating. I wasn't trying to like compare the amount of times each gender faces uh assault. I'm saying that the ramifications when it comes to like the outcome of assault for women tends to be higher. Like I've 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 heard stories. I've like seen situations where if they didn't address a man properly, it ended in them getting hurt. Like I haven't, to my knowledge, and correct me if I'm wrong, because you guys probably have a higher purview than me when it comes to this. But to me, to my knowledge, I have yet to hear like a situation where a man was assaulted by like a woman and then it ended in like him being physically hurt. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, but what I'm saying is
what's
that
less likely?
yeah,
It's
Less
less
likely,
likely because
yeah,
but it still
it's
happens.
right. It
yeah.
is less likely in that spectrum. But like I said, that's why I say that this particular topic, for where it's going as of right now, it just doesn't. It's not fitting because the now we're getting into the psyche and the societal standards of the genders.
Sure.
And to be honest, the psyche and societal standards of the genders is is fucked up
Yes,
overall.
it's a beast in itself.
So with that said, is like, remember, all right, what you can consider, it's all, I guess it's all based on the levels of how or where they go with it. Like based on what Gunnar was saying in the article about females having to bend over and walk through desks.
Mhm.
That is clear. That is very clear that is sexual harassment.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some females, well, some people can argue, well, if I work at a job that's predominantly male, or if I go to school and my subject area is predominantly male and we get one or two females, I'm going to quote unquote shoot my shot. Is he sexually harassing her? Or is he being a male like we're trained to be and going after what we want? That's where the psyche and the societal standards of things come into play. And then that's where it starts to lose
Well, I think the line
video
for
game
most of us
aspect.
is it's pretty obvious the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
But
us, at
but
least.
that's what I'm saying is that if it's not, again, it can be, I can say, hey, your shoes look really nice today. Someone can take it as sexual harassment.
Sure.
That's why I
And
said
that's the
earlier.
other
Yeah.
extreme.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I say, like, that's why I said earlier is that, don't, when you're, my advice to people is when they clock into work, it doesn't matter if the person is black, white, or green, or yellow, or blue. It doesn't matter if they're male, female, genderless, gendered. It doesn't really matter. Just see that person as another individual that's trying to accomplish the same goal as you are, and your chances of success
Keep it
of dealing
professional.
with that person, right, is much higher. And I think that's where we start to lose ourselves. And then when you start to categorize it by females deal with this, men deal with this, that's when they become a disconnect and a unnecessary scale that is presented into what shouldn't even be presented to begin with. Because when I clock into work, I shouldn't have to, it shouldn't be in my mind like, oh, I want to get with my coworker. Like it just doesn't, it just doesn't, it
It
doesn't
shouldn't
compute
be,
to me.
but
Yeah.
Yes, I get it. There are
people are going to
who
be
will do it.
people, right?
Right.
And people who have never been checked or humbled in other workplaces are going to continue that behavior because it's like, well, nothing's happened to me yet, right?
Right.
And so
Right.
that's what I'm recommending is that there needs to be that humbling factor and there needs to be that risk factor, and it starts with the leadership.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I definitely agree with that 100%. It definitely starts with the leadership, and the leadership having to create a battle plan or a game plan to protect their employees from themselves, from other employees, and even protect the company from the employees. Companies have to protect themselves from their employees as well, because an employee can destroy a company with word of mouth.
Right.
If there is no substantial proof. So it's all.
Oh, we lost Wolf there for a second.
No, he went away
No.
for a while.
No, it was just me putting my thoughts together. But it's just really just the way I look at it. I just look at it as, when it comes to work environment, the whole screw the whole gender nonsense. 1, is this person efficient? 2, is this person professional? 3, can I work with this person?
Yeah.
That's all that should matter to you. So
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to ignore,
Mm.
what's obvious, right?
Of
I'm not going to
course,
ignore the trends. I'm not going to ignore the stats. I'm not going to ignore, people's experience. You have to take that into account to some degree. But at the end of the day, you have to, when you're running a business, your priority should be the business, right? How do I grow the business?
Mhm.
How do I make sure, my assets are in line? How do I make sure employees are happy? Because when employees are happy, they're productive. And a productive employee is more valuable than a stressed out employee, right?
Mhm.
Or stressed out coworker. So that's really my point is the people in charge need to step up and they need to do their part. These people are making a lot of money off the backs of these people, these very people that are being abused. So they need to do their fucking part and earn their paycheck for once and protect their assets. Because if it wasn't for the game designers and the level designers and the animators and the programmers, these CEOs and all these executives wouldn't be making the money that they're making off of the product that exists. So they need to do their part.
Especially considering that most of them don't know much about them or what the consumers want. That's another topic.
That's
in
another
itself.
topic.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But cool beans. I think this was a good talk. Do you guys have any other? I've pretty much exhausted any thoughts I had on this particular topic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm done.
That's it. Yeah, it's not much to be said. Just hope that the appropriate people get prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Investigations carried out professionally, and people that were hurt, hopefully they can get some, the help they need, whether it's monetary or psychological or both. And maybe one day Blizzard can just go back to making good games and stop being known for shit games and shit work practices.
Oh, pal, one step at a time. All right, cool. Well, thank you guys for joining us in this conversation. Let us know your thoughts down below. If we made any mistakes with the reporting, feel free to correct us in the comments. The article we're referring to, which is a little late, will be linked down below so you can see what we were referencing. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So Esoteric, tell our viewers where they could find us.
Right, guys. So you guys can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and IG, aka Instagram. Logical Gamers, look for the light bulb. Also, I stream on Twitch Monday, Wednesday, Fridays from 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. EST. So definitely come through and come chill.
All right, later.
Laters.
Peace.